The 2016 movie Hidden Figures was based on the true story of black women who were crucial to NASA's space program during the 1960s in the Jim Crow South. The real-life black women portrayed in the movie were mathematicians, scientists, and engineers. They were hidden figures because most people never knew they even existed despite their critical roles in history. It was an inspiring story that hopefully encouraged more black women and girls to go into science and technology careers. But we also have more recent role models of black women working for NASA, like Olympia LePoint. LePoint is a rocket scientist, literally like a real one, in the flesh. And the story of how she got there is pretty amazing. She grew up in poverty in South Central LA. But when she was 6 years old, she went on a school field trip to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California. And when that little 6-year-old girl saw the mission control room, she, quote, became alive. When LePoint was just 21 years old, she became an analyst and then rocket scientist for Boeing. She worked to support NASA in the space shuttle launches. Today, LePoint is dedicated to empowering others. She's a TED speaker and an author whose latest book is Answers Unleashed 2, The Science of Attracting What You Want. Olympia LePoint joins me now, and I'm so excited to talk to you because today is the birthday of the late Katherine Johnson, and so it just feels like perfect timing. She was the brilliant mathematician who folks know was played by Taraji P. Henson in the movie. So tell us how black women like Johnson inspired you to do what you do, and how do you go from growing up with limited means to becoming a literal rocket scientist?
Well, Zerlina, I am so happy to be on the show with you, and it took a lot of courage, and more importantly, it took a lot of decisions to actually become a rocket scientist, and that's what I write about in my latest book, Answers Unleashed 2, The Science of it's just like, it is the science of attracting what you want, and we attract what we want through our decisions. And in my life, I unfortunately did not have the role models in my life to go into rocket science. It was like more of trying to figure out how I was going to survive and get an education and get my degrees. And I realized that what gift I had was being able to see the future. And as I looked at other people's success, I was able to see my own future and how to make decisions towards that. I am so honored to follow in the footsteps of promoting education like Katherine Johnson, like Mary Jackson, like the women of Hidden Figures, because I truly believe that African American young kids, people of color, it doesn't matter what your background is, and women have the ability to go into the STEM fields, which is the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and do great things and create the solutions for our future. And so when I look at people like Katherine Johnson and Mary Jackson, I look at their brilliant minds, and I think if they could do it, I can do it too.
I love that, and it's so cool because my dad is a scientist, and so, you know, as a trained lawyer, I never really understood, like, why he liked science. I don't know. I mean, science for me always felt really, really hard. So when I looked at him, I was like, you know, why is he so good at science? Why is he so into science and I'm not? I mean, I was like, I'm not good at it. But then, as we've been here in quarantine, the day I understood was the day I bought him a telescope. And I watched him, you know, set it up. And I figured out, like, he feels joy. Science makes him feel joy. So how can we help more, you know, black girls and boys learn the joy of science?
We have to relate it to the future. We have to relate it to solving problems. Now, I grew up in South Los Angeles, where is the roughest part of the most poverty-filled area in the 1980s, and it was very tough. But what I didn't realize is that that environment helped me be able to solve problems. In order to survive, you had to be able to solve problems and figure out how you're going to eat, what you're going to do to get to school. These basic things that people may take for granted in other areas, that became a necessity. And I truly believe that when your mind is actually taught to be able to overcome adversity at young ages, you have the power, the mind power, And not only the mind power, the willpower, and the scientific power to actually find solutions. And when you couple that with looking at the foundation of mathematics, the foundation of science, and using those as tools to be able to solve problems, I am a firm believer that people in the inner city areas, individuals that are coming from poverty, it doesn't matter what your background is, you have the capabilities and the intelligence to do great things. And when you can see a problem that you can solve, and when you see down the line in the future how things should be, and how you can actually create something that's going to work for other people and yourself, bingo. You have the makings to become a rocket scientist, and you have the makings to become someone great, because the reason is that when you can solve global issues, when you can see the future and find that solution, you're not only a great problem solver, you are a leader, and in today's world, you are more than likely going to be a billionaire.
Oh, I love that. I want to be a billionaire. Well, maybe not a billionaire, but I definitely want, you know, millions. I think we all sort of want that. One of the things I think that you've likely experienced, and I think we probably have this in common, is as Black women, we have often been the only woman or Black woman in a particular room full of dudes. I've been in plenty of rooms where it's all white dudes and me. And, you know, you're questioned as to whether or not you belong in that room, whether or not you're smart enough to be in that room, whether or not you're, you know, on par with the people you're standing around. Even if it's obvious that you're smarter than them, it doesn't matter. It's because you're who you are. Talk about how you've overcome doubt and come back to this idea that you believe in yourself, whether or not other people do or not.
There is a natural doubt that comes into your mind when you are the first. If you're the first woman, you have a doubt often. If you're the first person of color, you have a doubt. For me, I was in a room sometimes of, this was in the 1990s, early 2000s. I was in a room of maybe 200 NASA engineers, and I was the only woman, and then I was the only person of color. And it was like shocking. And it was at first, and I talk about this in my TED Talk, Reprogramming Your Brain to Overcome Fear. It was that moment in time where I thought to myself, do I have what it takes? And the reality was, through my experience, I realized that God brought me there for a reason. I'm a spiritual person. Everyone's different. But for me, I realized that God brought me there for a reason. And it was because I was the puzzle piece. I was the missing puzzle piece. And without my calculations, there wasn't going to be a launch. And there's so many times that people are the puzzle piece, but they don't know it. They think that because they're the first, they're in a situation where everyone else is going to know what to do. No, no, no. It's because you're brought there for a reason. And in my case, I realized that I was brought to help NASA for a reason. And now I'm brought to the United States average public to help people understand that science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is the way of the future. And so now I'm brought to you.
Yes. I love this. I love this so much. Olympia LePoint, you're just a pleasure to talk to and to speak with every time we chat. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and please stay safe.